Okay, when I was a lowish level screenwriter, entry level screenwriter, I made a friend named Arvind Ethan David, who's a British guy who was a protege of Douglas Adams and was a friend of his. And when Douglas died, it really fucked up Arvind's whole world. And Arvind, by hook and by crook, through passion and tenacity and money, ended up sort of as the steward of the Douglas Adams properties.
Yep.
And he came to me off the strength of one of my scripts that never became a movie, by the way, that one, and said, "Would you ever do a Dirk TV show?" And my man, because I had mentioned loving Dirk, especially Long Dark Tea Time. I actually the first book is harder for me just
Yeah.
because it's a less Douglas Adamsy style. You can feel it, it feels like a constrained Doctor Who, whereas Long Dark Tea Time feels like straight up Douglas Adams doing
Yeah.
Doctor Who. I'm sorry, I just started like rambling because I wanted
Oh,
to.
No, that's
this
fine.
is this is exactly what we expected from a Max Landis interview, and we're here for it.
Okay. Well, to not to belabor it, because I want you guys to be able to talk and ask me whatever you want to ask. But Arvin said, "Would you ever do this TV show?" And I was like, "Yeah, but you can't do a Dirk TV show. You're not
Right.
in a position to, and I'm not in a position to sell it." And then 3 years later, I was, to pat myself on the back, like the screenwriter.
Yeah.
And I was getting a lot of things I finally wanted. And my agent, Zach Drucker, was like pushing me. You got to get into TV. Yeah, I had this frustrating experience on Victor Frankenstein. I had a frustrating experience on the movie I directed. And those experiences, and when you go through development enough, you get very frustrated in
Yeah.
Hollywood.
I've seen how some
Yeah,
of your
we've
projects
heard
have changed
stories.
from like idea to inception, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of steps down the way that you don't
We
necessarily
have
get to say.
thoughts,
And
as they say.
yeah,
Oh, I'd be curious, but so Arvind came back around and he went like, "Would you do Dirk?" And I was now in a position to help him get it done.
that's crazy.
And
Nice.
I was like, yeah, I stayed true to my word. I said I'd do Dirk. This will be my thing. And now Arvind, what's interesting is Arvind's trying to get a Dirk cartoon show going at Netflix. I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Yep.
But what's interesting is Arvind right now, the reason I was even telling you any of this is because you're doing a play of Dirk.
Yep.
Arvind right now is doing it's kind of like an immersive experience, but it's kind of like a play, and it's very silly and campy of hitchhikers in London.
Yep.
Did you know?
I hadn't heard like gotten any info. I knew that there was something coming with Hitchhikers in the form of a stage show, like augmented reality type thing, but I had never really heard too many details about it, to be honest.
It's interesting. It's hard to do Douglas Adams in general because
Mm.
so much of the humor is the conversation you're having with him. Not so much anything that's happening, although funny stuff happens. A Carl Hyacin book, when it's funny, it's because a ridiculous situation has gone out of control. Whereas in a Douglas Adams book, it's funny because you're hearing his thoughts on it and his interpretation of it.
100%. Like with the Dirk play, for example, none of the dialogue that happens with the characters themselves is necessarily the setup for the humor. It's more the internal monologue of Dirk that is presented as an audience only speech where like I'm stepping away and the stage freezes behind me. So it's
Oh,
like I
great.
see what you're talking about in the writing style there, but when it's done well, it's absolutely incredible.
Mhm. Oh yeah. Well, that's why my Dirk ended up so different than the books, is because I refused to try to adapt the books because I didn't want to do a bad adaptation of Dirk Gently.
It makes
I
sense.
wanted I
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
do I wanted to do a Douglas Adams TV show and take his tone and execute his tone on the screen. And that was my goal with both seasons of Dirk. And I think I did it. I'm very happy with
Dude,
it.
it's incredible. And I mean, it's one of my favorite Elijah Wood projects outside of Lord of the Rings, which speaks to itself. But having followed your career since Chronicle, I'll be honest, Chronicle was a game changing movie for me.
He
I had just
loves
started doing
Chronicle.
this podcast network, And it was the first found footage film that I was ever truly a fan of. But then I started coming into your early YouTube videos with your Death of Superman, your early Schmodown appearances, the
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings pitch of the movie you can't make, your 100 Acre Wood pitches. I was like, this guy is the greatest.
Disney made that.
Yeah, that's
Disney ended up
insane.
fucking making that. Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
And like, so just to get involved with that level, but Chronicle, I remember the hype that you had coming off of that. Like you
Yeah.
were in the trades being talked about as the next big guy. I mean, we know it launched Trank's career as well. And I think it's a big part of what got him Fantastic Four.
First of all, Chronicle is what got Trank Fantastic Four, and I'm the one who got Trank Chronicle, even though it's his idea. I was the door for that. And what's interesting is Chronicle, Fruitvale Station had already come out,
Yep.
but Chronicle is a launch point also
For Dane
for
DeHaan and Michael B.
and Alex Russell, who's
Oh
a
my
TV,
God.
he's a TV director now.
Yep.
And it's like he's not a movie star in the same way, but he's quite successful and has had like a wonderful career. And he's the one who I see the most. I haven't seen Dane and Michael B. Jordan in maybe 8 years, 9 years. But Alex, I saw like 6 months ago. I keep up with them. Trank, he's in Trank World. I don't know.
Yeah.
He went a little bit Howard Hughes.
Sometimes they all don't come back. Like
Yeah.
he
It's
took the brown acid and never quite made it back.
Yeah, well, he's a good guy. He'll find a road. Trank's
I
a
know
genius.
some people that were on set with Fan Four Stick and the whole him tearing the house apart and stuff like that. And I was privy to some photos and stuff that
I have no comment.
Yeah,
on
it
this.
was interesting. But with Chronicle, I have to ask this because if nothing else out of this interview, I had heard a Comic-Con question that you answered about where Chronicle 2 would have gone, as well as what the powers came from. And I appreciate that. I just want to know, was the rumor true that like Chronicle 2 was going to set up like the first big supervillain?
So you can read Chronicle 2.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. So basically, what happened with Chronicle 2 was Martyr is the title of Chronicle 2, and then Drone is the title of 3. And they hired and paid me my full rate to write Martyr. But then there was sort of a make or break moment where, and you can read Martyr, it's good. And I don't want to spoil what happens.
I just pulled it up right now. Like I've never been more excited for anything in my entire life. Holy
I'm quite proud of it. It's about a character. It features Matt from Chronicle pretty heavily, but the way into it is very unique. And they fully paid me for it. And then we went into talks with Josh, and Josh, when he had directed Chronicle, he was an editor, and he had pitched me the idea of doing a found footage telekinesis movie, and I had come up with sort of the three boys and the tragedy of Chronicle, the plot of Chronicle, Andrew and Matt and Steve. And so I wrote that script, and I think Josh, I stuck by him relentlessly because they didn't want him to direct. Because he was a first-time director on a studio movie, like they were like he directed.
When has that ever worked out? Like what movie has somebody done the first time and nailed it? Like they act like this stuff has never happened before. That irks me to high heaven.
It's such, yeah, but they still act like movie stars matter. Like the main way movies are financed is through movie stars. This is after Paranormal Activity. This is after I could list 1,000 movies that created movie stars.
We just saw Tron Ares. That's a movie star. That movie was crap. I don't want to give crap a bad name, so we'll just say not good.
I don't like to shit on movies anymore publicly.
Yeah.
Now that I'm finally working again, I don't need to make any more
100%. I was trying to be
I can't help it. I can't help it. It's not. Listen, this guy doesn't remember it. That's why he can do that. Don't listen to him. He's like, I don't remember the movie. I remember the movie. I remember all the movie. All of it. Whole thing. Including dialogue. So you shut up.
But yeah, Max, I mean, first of all,
Anyway, let me finish.
Yes.
There came a make or break moment. Where Josh, basically, he could have done Fantastic Four or he could do Chronicle 2. And Josh told me, this Chronicle, why would I do this? And I was like, because they'll give us total control and we're coming off a major win. And if you don't like the script, tell me you don't like the script. And I'll write something different and we'll get them to pay me to write that. But like, don't do Fantastic Four. If you do Fantastic Four, that's like a big studio movie. They're not going to let you do anything you want to do.
At all.
And I'd already been through
Yeah,
that
they're gonna
experience.
take out of control of it.
I'd
Yeah.
already been through that experience, and Josh hadn't. So I kind of tried to be like, sorry, my cleaning lady. Here,
No
let me go to.
problem.
So
That's all right.
I kind of tried to tell Josh, essentially like, do Chronicle and you can be king of Chronicle. If you do Fantastic Four, you're going to be the director working on Fantastic Four. And Josh chose Fantastic Four, and Chronicle died on the vine. But what's so interesting about Chronicle is the lack of a sequel, but not that they haven't made one, because it's not like they moved on from my draft, but it's because they specifically, the people who are in charge of that brand still think they can do it. So they've paid, I think, 7 different writers at this point to write terrible Chronicle 2s. And they just keep pouring money into it because sort of some of the people who worked on the original Chronicle, who didn't actually do that much, ended up sort of in charge of it and believing that because I was out of it and Josh was out of it, they were the steward of Chronicle. And so
Oh,
Mark
okay.
just got like put on the shelf as soon as Josh was gone. And it's been there ever since. But yes, in Martyr, you learn a little bit more about where they get the powers. That's really in the third one. But the sequel is entirely about Jack and Miranda and about who made Chronicle. Because Chronicle is a found footage movie. So who had that footage? Who edited
Who
that
recorded
footage?
it?
Who
Yeah,
no,
because you see all
who
the
edited it?
characters. Who's behind the camera?
Well,
No,
Andrew's
so the
That,
camera was
yeah,
being used telekinetically, which is the most brilliant usage of a found footage trope
yeah.
that I've ever seen. Because you always wonder in these movies, like, oh, where did it happen? The fact that it's Dane DeHaan's perspective, and he's always shown to be the most powerful one from the time they get their
yeah.
powers. But I need to tell you this, Max, because in as much as I love this movie, on a real moment with you, you killed a bright spot of my soul because Chronicle was the film that made me realize if superpowers ever were real, I could not have one because I've had too much trauma and I would go the Dane DeHaan path. And I mean that like in the realest notion where like if it really happened, I know that I cannot have that because I would go that dark side. And as much as I love everything about that movie, that little piece of me died that day.
That's awful to
Yeah, he
know
was the
about.
strongest one. That was something I was wondering is if I don't know if this is gonna be a spoiler. I don't know how to ask this otherwise. Is being who he was and being the most powerful would he have been the most powerful one like at the end of the trilogy?
Andrew?
Would he? Yeah.
Well, Andrew dies.
Andrew's
Like
dead at the end of the first one. And Matt never becomes a superhero in the
So now,
trilogy.
from what I understand, though, they were basically kind of telekinetic drones for what they
Yes.
found in the cave. And then because that was destroyed, they were not eventually like mind wiped or fully turned over to the hive mind type thing. Is that correct?
Yes. So the thing that gave them their in the pre-Cambrian era of Earth, when the surface of Earth was entirely lava, it was not actually devoid of life. However, life took on very different forms. Now you see at the bottom of the ocean, living in geothermal vents, there are these crystalline organisms,
Yep.
and they use electromagnetic pulses to hunt, right? And so back in the pre-Cambrian era, these things they were giant. They call them massive omnivorous geological organism. It's basically a giant living crystal that moves very slowly. You wouldn't know it was alive to look at it, but it moves very slowly through the lava and propels itself with electromagnetics. It's almost like you see those barnacles or like a sea urchin. It's hard to even tell it's alive. But these things, as time went on, they did not die out. The core of the earth is still entirely molten, so they were slowly pushed down deeper and deeper and deeper. And only do they come up to close to the surface of the earth when they're dying. But they're under us right now. There are millions of them. And they're just so close that we never know. And when they do come up, they use electromagnetic pulse to sort of mind wipe small mammals, birds, rodents. and then use them to gather food because they eat plant matter. They're omnivorous. They eat plant matter, they absorb it. They essentially break it down electromagnetically. They digest it with electricity. But that one was too old and too fucked up. And when it tried to do its pulse, it collapsed the cave. And the three boys were left with this incredible power and no control. However, in the third movie, we get to see what happens when one of them is alive and awake. And that movie's called Drone, and that had all these visuals that were like almost like World War Z if they instead the zombies could fly,
Oh
where
wow.
they were just flying swarms of people. And I thought that would have been very cool for found footage.
I mean,
And
it definitely revolutionized what found footage was at the time because where Paranormal Activity kind of was the first one to give us the security cam view, Chronicle was the first one where you were along for the ride, but there wasn't a cameraman. And that added so much to it. And the best example that I can give is when Dane DeHaan first suits up in his dad's fire suit and goes to
oh
rob the
yeah,
bullies. And he's doing the telekinetic guns, and the way that the camera follows his movements as he's doing the leaps and everything like that, it's like the camera was emotionally attached to him in a way
yes.
that I've never seen in a found footage film.
Well, from the outset in Chronicle, Andrew is using the camera as a pressure release valve. He's documenting his mother's illness, his father's abuse, because documenting it puts him, a step away. And then once he bonds with Steve and Matt, the camera becomes a tool to glue them together. And Andrew and Steve's friendship builds throughout the movie. And Andrew begins to realize he doesn't maybe need the camera until things go really wrong and Steve's killed by lightning. And then the camera becomes a wall for the world.
And fun, like blink and you'll miss it moment when Steve gets hit by the lightning and they're tumbling, he drops the camera. I'm assuming goes down to catch Steve, but then comes back for the camera
Yes.
before they hit the ground. There's that great shot. They're tumbling. So I love that, like, even in this impulsive, oh my God, what just happened moment, there was still an awareness to go back for the camera. And it's just one of those little moments that just adds emotion in a way I've never seen. And I got to say, whoever cut the trailer for this movie, I
think it
remember.
was Josh.
Was it really?
Yeah, he's an editor. He's great.
The price tag theme song has been stuck in my head forever. Jesse J's song because of that. But like, it was the first time that you were like, wow, they're showing me exactly what I want to see. But there was not anything that like movie trailers do nowadays to spoil everything in the trailer.
Yeah.
Like insanely well made.
Yeah,
but
they give you all the most impressive scene. Yeah, that's what I was asking about was I know he died, but if there was somebody else later on who was more powerful than the individuals we saw in the first movie, that kind of got, they didn't really harness it well enough because they didn't know.
Yeah, they're not really. That's not, Chronicle. I say this all the time, but we got to talk about things other than Chronicle.
yeah,
But what's interesting is Chronicle, and I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again. Chronicle has more in common with Carrie than it does with Spider-Man. Chronicle is very much boy Carrie, and it came out deliberately in an era of superhero movies, meaning to not quite satirize them, but present that these tropes, these sci-fi thriller tropes that are used so effectively in superhero movies, they can actually also be effectively used in a tragedy or a drama or something a little more serious and subversive. And it doesn't have to be The Boys. It doesn't have to be Invincible. There's ways to use the tools we use in superhero stories that are more emotional and evocative than simply putting someone in a cape and having them say the F word.
I mean, that's a great summary with that. Danny, I know that you want to get to your Lord of the Rings bit after this, but the next topic, if we don't bring it up, I'll kill myself. I apologize. Is the Kryptonian epic.
Oh, gosh.
It started with Superman American Alien. Now, again, I've been following you since Chronicle, so I remember the news breaking on Cosmic Book News, like Max Landis to write a DC, 7-issue series. So I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be incredible. And then American Alien comes out. And even if it had just remained those 7 issues, it's one of the greatest one-offs I'd ever seen, Elseworlds Tales, whatever you want to call it at the time. And it's not for the reasons that people love other stories. It wasn't because there was these huge battles or immense powers. Just Clark pretending to be Bruce on a yacht. Yeah. Like just the insight into characters. But then you begin the Kryptonian epic, which at this point is like more than 20 hours of content at this point. But which, first of all, I think the Absolute Universe kind of stole their whole idea from your Kryptonian epic. But along the way, you create and you build out that entire DC universe in what you started in those 7 issues to a point where it's a more universe scaling crossing story than the Infinity Saga was for Marvel. And I don't say that to like flatter you or anything. I've watched it. You went into Green Arrow for an hour and like the thought that was put into every character and how they fit into this world and how do I change the mold from what's come before, but do it in a way that doesn't feel forced. It's incredible storytelling, and it boils down to me to the deposition of Barry Allen. In my opinion, that is the greatest live action Flash that has ever been put in front of the screen. And I worked with the Flash show when it was on the CW. Like, this is the best depiction of Barry Allen, and there's no Speed Force involved. The way you talk about 0 point energy and the entire Ace Chemicals incident, it's shot just you. You're the only person in this. It's a solo and it's the most enthralling piece of Flash media I've ever seen. So I need to know, like, how did that come about?
I first of all, thank you. The Kryptonian epic means the world to me, and every time I would go into it, because it was my personal project, it was a challenge to myself to tell a Lord of the Rings scale story that even bigger, Game of Thrones, that went across multiple generations and had a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's twists, you learn stuff about characters, and then they end. So a big part of that was trying to figure out how each of these characters could fit if they were adjacent to a protagonist. If I have a guy who is the hero, Clark, who are all these other heroes? They all have to be like really interesting. None of them can just be like cool people, because the whole thing of Superman is that he's a cool guy. Like he's just a nice, easy, good hang, super emotionally intelligent, funny, fun to hang out with, dumb enough that you can kind of make fun of him, but smart enough that he can go back at you. He's impulsive, he makes mistakes. I have all that. I have my guy. So I don't need Flash to be that guy. I don't need Aquaman to be that guy. I don't need any of these other guys to be that guy like I would if they were in their own comic, where you sort of need a protag in that way. And so Flash, I looked at him and I was like, who the fuck is the Flash? Like Jay Garrick, Barry Allen, Wally West, Bart, who gives a fuck? Like, if you don't care about the Flash in the way that I do, I am a Flash fan.
Absolutely.
But if you don't care about the Flash, walking someone in day one on that character and going, he's the fastest man alive. Okay, what's his personality? He's good. He's nice. Like he's like he has to eat a lot sometimes. He's funny. He's daring, and each of them kind of have their own thing. Wally existed to be juxtaposed with Barry ultimately, which is my favorite era of the Flash, is the Jeff Johns Wally West, and maybe that's just my my Z, my kind of like
Jeff Johns is my Jesus. I'm a Green Lantern fan, and Blackest Night's my all-time favorite story. So Jeff Johns is like my scripture.
He's done incredible work, but I looked at it and I said, well, if you were the fastest man alive, what is that really? What is the fastest man alive really? Oh, he's an asshole. Like, I was like, what if there was a guy who was the fastest man alive, but that being fast mattered less to him than people knowing that he was the fastest man alive?
100%.
But they couldn't care that he's the fastest man alive because he has superpowers. It has to be ego. He needs to be told. And I started to create this personality where I was like, well, wait a minute. What if this guy's kind of annoying and a jerk and a narcissist? And ultimately, his whole life is in pursuit, unlike the other superheroes who are superheroes as an outcome of their destiny. My Aquaman is a genetic hybrid. My Superman is born a genetic hybrid. My Wonder Woman is born a genetic hybrid. What if there was a guy who never wanted to be a superhero, but the whole of his life was dedicated to achieving something that is undeniably a superpower, right? But he can't engage with that. Like, if Oppenheimer had existed in a world where Dr. Manhattan already existed, think about how Oppenheimer would feel. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a great metaphor. Holy
And so Barry just he kind of came into my head fully formed once I was looking for him, and I thought he's an anti-hero, he's unlikable. And Deposition of Barry Allen, I wrote there's almost no written dialogue in that entire short. Me and Ben and Carbis, I had I think 23 prompts, and they were like 6 sentences long with specific lines. Like the Wright brothers were mediocre bicycle repairmen. If I was there at Kitty Hawk, I would have landed that thing on the fucking moon. And I had like specific lines I wanted him to say. And I knew that I'd held him off and kind of referenced him in things. And I had fallen so in love with him while writing Freeze Test Run and just had really gotten this affection for that guy. And I had done, Death of Batman, where I kind of acted out the characters. And I had done Agent of Batman, where I kind of act and but I'd never put on makeup. I'd never like tried to really perform. But I was like, if I do this guy's story that I'm proud of in a webcam, I'm wasting it. And I went, I'm not an actor. I don't know how to act, but I bet I know Barry enough that if we get me in a room with 2 cameras, 3 camera setup, I can be him. And you can give me these prompts like you're interviewing me, and I can improv his dialogue. And so we cut that down so
Oh God,
much.
give me the director's cut of the Deposition of Barry Allen.
Where's the rest of the footage? Yeah.
It was like it was like an hour and a half long. It was a feature, and there was a whole part in the jail cell that we cut because it was a little too movie. And I had to every single one of the crypto. And before we say anything else about Barry Allen, Alberto Borsato, the music of the Kryptonian epic, the music in the Barry Allen short is great.
It wraps you in such an extra layer that, no offense, but I don't feel like the soundtrack and anything else in Kryptonian comes close as far as like enhancing the emotion and the validity of the moment in the story that you're telling.
Yeah, there's other moments in the epic where the music really sings. Like I love some of the Wonder Woman scenes. I absolutely love when Shazam appears in Endangered Species.
What you do with Shazam is such a like every character has these amazing moments to shine. And the fact that you've thought it out to this level and then just put it out there for the fans, this is what the MCU could do. When you have a creator that can have their hand in an entire run of a storyline similar to the Kryptonian epic, look at the strength that secondary characters that can't necessarily carry their own film. Green Arrow is the example I keep going back to because I've always hated Green Arrow. And what you did with him was so friggin' cool. But it's just like the storytelling aspect of this. That's what your gift is. You're one of the best storytellers I've ever seen. But and I mean that. I'm autistic, and comic books and this media have been my way to connect with the world.
Such a wonderful sentence. You're one of the best storytellers I've ever seen. I'm autistic. Well, I'm so happy I could do that for you, man.
And Danny, I know that you have a couple questions as well, so I want to give you your moment here.
I'll finish on the Kryptonian epic. I'll finish. That is the most satisfying, other than Dirk season 1, where I won every fight and everyone involved in the show was on exactly the same page. And then it came out and people loved it and it got good reviews and lots of people watched it. That's the only time in my career, other than Chronicle, where I mean, like there's American Alien and I love American Ultra and Mr. Right. Mr. Right was a big hit, but like something about Dirk season 1 is like the Kryptonian epic, where when I'm done with it, I just feel like couldn't have done that better. I'm out. Like
incredible.
Danny? Proud of, thank you.
Yeah, I'm more of a Marvel than a DC guy, but some of my favorite characters are like North Star and Quicksilver, and they have that a-hole about them.
Yes,
they're gonna do good things, but they're when you talk to him, like, that guy sucks. Yeah, he does, but he's amazing. So what are you gonna do? Like, deal with it. So that's what I liked about the whole Flash Barry Allen thing. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
On to Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
So I knew that there was a that Tolkien started writing his another epic where, as we know throughout history, it takes a couple of generations where every evil starts to be forgotten, and it becomes just to be whispers. We're like, oh, it was so bad. Things were horrible. I'm like, oh yeah, really, Grandpa? That's amazing that things were bad then. And they start to forget, and it was like the whisper
We are
of
there. We're there right now.
we're living it through. And like the next Sauron started to come about, and they were like the tales of the old. And he started writing it, but then he stopped. And so Chuck's like, yeah, watch this. Started watching like your Lord of the Rings pitch. I was listening. It's like, oh, I like that. Oh, that sounds interesting. Then you're like, it's new Lord of the Rings. Like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. All right, I gotta pause for a second, do a little scream and cheering, like, oh yes, I'm in fully, and then had to restart.
I told him I can't tell you what movie he's pitching, but Danny and I met and bonded over Lord of the Rings. Like that's our favorite like film franchise ever. So I dropped that on him. I'm like, you're gonna love this. I can't tell you anything about it.
It's interesting. You know what's really strange? Like really strange is that Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, as different as they are, have been treated very similarly in the modern canon in that they have only gone backwards. They have only gone into their own history. And I really feel like both of them, even though they are these sacred cows, I feel like they are being defiled in ways that they think that because something's a prequel, you can't fuck it up.
Right.
And it a lot of the time when I watch like Fantastic Beasts or something, part of me is just like, where the fuck is the Draco TV show? Where's the Neville Longbottom movie? Where's if we're doing Lord of the Rings, what happened after Lord of the Rings? Like clearly like he went to live with the elves and like the kingdom of man prospered. Did it become a world like ours? Or what happened to it? What's the future of Lord of the Rings? Which is why I ended up writing a script called Bright.
They did
I
that same
love
thing with
what
Alien.
Bright was supposed to be.
They started doing all the prequel. They started doing all the prequels to Alien. They didn't even bring the story up to the main points that we all loved in the first Alien and Aliens. They forgot everything that people loved about that. All the prequels answer none of those questions. They don't bring you any. Oh, well, then you know where the story's going. Yeah, we know. That's what we like. We want to see the story progress to this eventuality. Just write a good, compelling story to that eventuality. And they refuse to do it or can't do it. Or maybe both. I don't know.
They can't do it because so many of those prequels are not creator driven. They're a prerogative on an IP, on a franchise that an executive says, like, we need to do this, but people will be so mad if we make a sequel because it's their sacred cow. So in their weird brain, they go, well, Rings of Power technically is not a sequel. And it's like, why would you rehash for a prequel? What are you doing? Like there's a lot of confusion. I've always found prequels confusing. There was one prequel, Wicked is sort of the standard, I think, for prequels.
I consider it fan fiction at best, but I'm in the other on that.
There's a lot of moments in the first Wicked, less so in the second Wicked, but in the play, there's a lot of moments that prequels do all the time that are so cringe where you go, and they're all ripped from Wicked, by the way, because they predate a lot of them, where there's the moment of like, and this is the moment of how Indiana Jones got his hat, or something like that.
Yeah.
But Wicked is the only thing I've seen actually pull that off. The Wicked Monkeys are this way, and they give each thing dramatic weight instead of just being an Easter egg. And like, I'm hard pressed to think of prequels that are good. I'm sorry, we're Lord of the Rings. What are we talking?
Oh no!
about?
So I just want to give you a heads up. So we have about 4 minutes left on our timer here. I don't want to keep you too long. So I wanted to know if there was anything that specifically you want to touch on, as far as stuff that you're promoting right now, anything like that. Your slow pitch, which first of all we shared around, that was incredible. But like, what's in the works for you right now? What can we help put some eyes on for you?
Well, nothing. I am back to work as a studio screenwriter. I sold that slow pitch.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Holy shit, dude. Breaking news right here.
Yeah, I guess I don't need to shush you. I sold it to a financier off the viral strength, 4.6 million on that pitch on
Wow,
TikTok.
that's amazing.
And you know what's so nice for me about moments like that, guys? Like really nice for me, is I'm my father's son. I'm Max Landis. I'm the son of John Landis. I'm a Nepo baby. When and I've made enough that I have a lot of confidence in my abilities at this point. But when something like Slow happens, where it goes viral and 99.9% of the people watching that don't have a fucking clue who I am, and it's just the strength of the idea, that means so much more. That's like it feels so much better because
what that was from our side was us trying to tell this kid's generation what Jordan was. You were the Jordan of pitching movies. And then you're like, oh, I haven't. And then you came out of retirement and just won the slam dunk competition with Slow. Like in front of all these 20 years, like, what's up?
Your number was
like Google me. I don't know who you think I was.
45, but now you can go back to 23, is what he's saying.
Like,
so drop the 45, you're now 23 again.
Max, I cannot tell you how happy that here. Oh man, because I know the trials and tribulations you went through. So see you successfully working as a screenwriter again, selling pitches like that, getting these viral clips. It's a magic thing to be able to watch your career like this, man. And I hope that I can do Dirk Gently half the justice that you brought to that character, man. And just know from my side of things, everything you do is for the geeks, by the geeks, and you're our FUBU. Like if I could rock a Max Landis brand, you're our FUBU. But for us,
as long as I'm not Sean John.
Oh, you don't worry. That documentary's not coming out anytime soon.
Yeah.
Guys, this has been absolutely wonderful, and thank you so much. You guys have been so effusive, and I'm so excited that you guys are doing the play.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, would you mind just doing a quick bumper, just saying, "Hey, I'm Max Landis. Check out MOVP's Dirk Gently this March."
MOVP?
Yeah, it's the Mid Ohio Valley Players.
Okay. Here we go. Hey, I'm Max Landis, creator of Dirk Gently's Holistic. Let me do it again. Hey, it's me, Max Landis. You remember? The creator of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, the TV show. But I'm here to introduce MOVP's. Oh, I did that totally wrong. What should I say?
MOVP's production of Dirk Gently this March.
This March. Okay, this time I'm gonna nail it. Hey, it's me, Max Landis. Remember me from movie fights? I'm the creator of Douglas Adams. Well, no, I can't even say. I'm doing it so bad. Hold on. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1. Hey, it's me, Max Landis from YouTube. I'm the creator of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency on BBC America. And this March, you can check out MOVP's live theater production of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. All forms of Adams are worth preserving and seeing live. Douglas Adams never disappoints. Good luck, MOVP.
Thank you so much, Max. I will get you an edited version of this interview later this week. It has been a dream, man.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Thank you very much for the time.
My absolute pleasure, guys.
Thank you, Max.
Oh, it's a TV.
What'd you say?
Behind you, it's a TV. I thought it was a window.
Oh, no.
Like, what the hell is going